Welcome along to this week's edition of The Trial Show. I'm Edward Sadler, he's Glen Ingram. And Glenn, I reckon two of your favourites are on the show this week, Jimmy and She's a Hustler.
Yeah, well, we're getting sick of talking about them. Ed, I just asked you off air, when is the William Reid? I think it's Saturday week. We've been building up to this with Jimmysstar. We had the false start last week. I think he was going to go to the Newmarket. There was some sort of nomination thrown in there, but sanity prevailed and they're going to keep him for the William Reid. He looks very well placed to wait for age, doesn't he?
He certainly does. Plan A certainly well enacted with Jimmysstar. We need to see who's back, though, at the trials and jumpouts this week before we get to Jimmy and She's a Hustler. This is an interesting horse. Regal Award from the Stokes stable. He's by Ole Kirk. He's won 2 from 6. And last time we saw him at the races was on Derby Day at Flemington Eagle.
Yeah, he's a bit of a rascal. They've put the earmuffs on him and some say he probably could have, should have won the Caulfield Guineas if he had been nominated there. It was that sort of, he seemed like the right horse, right time. Unfortunately, didn't get there. He won a couple of races and then he was a little bit disappointed at the end of his campaign. Not sure he really got the mile there at the end of the campaign, Ed. So, you know, maybe kept a 1400, 12, 1400, that'll be his go. So he looked nice and forward in this jump out. Stretton Angel finished off well in 4th in the lime green colours for the Stoke stable, as it often does. And Regal Award looks really forward. You can see he's ridden out and happy to be there.
And O2 Good in the cerise and yellow finished second there. She runs on Saturday first up. I really like with Regal Award that when O2 Good went up to put the pressure on, he responded nicely.
Yeah, he did. He was certainly there to have a go and have a good strong hit out, and you like to see that, don't you, leading into a first-up run.
So that's him first time back at the jump outs. We might have to see him at the jump outs again before we see him at the races soon enough. You've got a lot of horses that are ready to go, though, Glenn. Straight into the Blackbook, straight to the races they go. Starting off with Ethereum Girl. Promising staying type, had a few excuses in the Wakeful and then ran 5th in the Oaks last time we saw her. This is her second jump out back.
Yeah, she's a nice filly. So they tried the nose roll on her last campaign because she does race with her head up in the air a little, and she's in the white jacket. This is her second jump out and she was really asked to go forward and show us a little bit in this second jump out, and she did that. She ran away from him. She ran pretty good time there for 1,000 metres, and you know, she's going to be really forward first up off an Oaks preparation when she steps out. I think, you know, being by Maurice, you wouldn't mind having a go on wet tracks. So I think if she was to head up to Sydney, you know, she could probably target one of those. We often get rain up there in Sydney, don't we, over the autumn? So
it feels like it's almost a foregone conclusion that April in Sydney, there's going to be rain.
Yeah, if you've got a wet tracker, you're certainly looking up towards Sydney that time of year. So, you know, if she can find a wet track over that sort of middle distance, I think she's going to be really effective this campaign.
You've taken quite a liking to Milady Rose. I think she's a double mentioner here on the trial show. Second jump out this preparation. To mine, it looked like, as far as how it was run, this jump out, it was a sit and sprint, but she can sprint.
She can, and she was really good in a jump out at Ballarat recently in a fast heat and made ground there under a tight hold, and she's jumped out really well again, and I think she's a horse a little bit like the one previously, Ethereum Girl. I think if she can get onto a wet track, she's going to be really effective in the coming weeks and months too, being by Bilardo's real wet track sire, and I like the way she's going there for Team McAvoy, so I certainly think she's one that we can follow first up. She's got a low rating, and that certainly gives her a chance to be winning first up.
Yep, so she's close to getting to the races. Second jump out this preparation and has progressed nicely from Ballarat to this one here at Flemington.
In the OTI colours too there, let's not forget that. They had a big weekend, of course, Paradise Storm for Henry Dwyer, taking out the Auckland Cup in New Zealand. Fantastic.
Not just taking it out, romping away with it.
Romped it in. So, yeah, they'd be wrapped with that.
Let's go to Prevail next of all. As far as horses who are ready to go, when you look at this horse's preparation, this is his third jump out this time in. He runs on Friday night. From a fitness point of view, he should be ready to go when he hits the Cranbourne.
100% agree with you there. This horse looks really wound up, ready to go. So it's his third jump out. You can see they were just going just at a slow gallop early, and then Prevailed was attacked by a horse called Motorsports, who goes well for the McAvoys. It's in the Godolphin Blue, comes around the outside, and just watch the way Prevail's able to pull away from this horse when challenged. It looks like it's got a good base of fitness, so I wouldn't be shocked at all if this horse can come out and win on Friday night at Cranbourne. looks very fit, wound up, ready to go for Team Kavanagh.
He doesn't look like the most straightforward of horses because from the vision we got of him in the gates, he was quite stirred up. So he was able to sustain the gallop there, but he's clearly not an easygoing type of horse.
No, and I think Brad Willers, he's got soft hands. He'll be able to go forward or sit that horse in a prominent position first up round Cranbourne. It's a good place to be.
Godolphin, obviously, fans of Nickelback. Photograph is where we head to next. This is the next one we're going to take a look at here. Metro winner hasn't had the ideal preparation from the looks of things because there's been a bit of a gap between that first and second jump out.
Yeah, there has. So things haven't gone to plan, as you said, but I think we get a snapshot of this horse's ability at the jump outs. It's been quite good. Second jump out, there's been a good gap in between. Just cruised along here. I think it might have been Jamie Mellon in the saddle there in the white jacket. Sat up outside the leader, who I thought went well, Purple Streak. It's had one run. I think it was a debut winner.
Yeah,
Purple
bolted
Streak.
up at Werribee, yeah.
Yeah, and ran pretty good time there at Werribee too. So I think that's two horses we can follow, Photograph and Purple Streak.
Purple Streak runs this weekend as well too at Caulfield. Immerse is the next one to have a look at. 3-year-old filly. She's got a decent enough record. She's won 2 from 8. She's had the 3 recent jump outs.
Yeah, she's a filly that I think can win first up for the McAvoys. If they were sort of dropping her back to benchmark level, she's been taking on the open 3-year-olds, I think, at her latest run and in much stronger races. So she's got quite a low rating. I think if they target a benchmark race first up with her, they can pick up a win. She's not overly big, but she was quite forward in this jump out. And I thought she went really well. So I'm happy to have something on her first up.
It looked like they ran along here too, Eagle.
Yeah, and she was quite strong at the end of it too. So I reckon they'd be wrapped with what they saw there. She's in the orange cap there, the Godolphin Blue.
Okay, so that is Immerse. Toll Puddle's the kind of horse that when he started his career a few years ago, he looked like he'd quite a bit of potential. I don't know if he's necessarily lived up to that. He's a 6-year-old now. He's won 4 of his 21 starts. But the interesting thing is he's clearly got some level of ability. And he's also with a new trainer, Nick Ryan, who's renowned for revitalising some of these older gallopers.
Yeah, and you know, it wouldn't surprise at all to see this horse wound up ready to go first up. He was nominated for Cranbourne this week. He was going to be running into Prevail on Friday night at Cranbourne. Really happy that they've kept these horses apart. Toll Puddle, he's an interesting horse, Ed. He's really talented as a gelding. He's been through a few good stables too. I mean, he's been through Graham Begg's stable. He was with Andrew Noblet previously. He's now with Nick Ryan. You can see he just runs on into second here, out wide on the course. And nice quiet jump out, but we know Nick Ryan's very good at setting one up.
If you go back about a week on this show, you said Jimmysstar, whatever he runs in basically, apart from, say, the stall gift, which 120 metres might be a little bit on the sharp side for him, but anything else, he will win. Jimmy's come back that well. So we're keeping a close eye on Jimmysstar. Ethan Brown's not going to be able to take the ride due to suspension in the William Reid. So it was interesting to see Mark Zara aboard for Jimmy's second jump out this prep.
Yeah, and there was a good chat with Mark Zara on radio about him having to be on the sidelines and watching a lot of his good horses being thrown to other jocks, and he's finally got one back. And lovely gallop in behind here, Jimmysstar. Just easy, soft jump out. This is all you want to see. We know the horse is flying. We saw his first jump out at Cranbourne. It was terrific, and a horse that really caught my eye here was Inamorata coming down the outside with Magic Time. Magic Time's behind it. Inamorata's in the white sleeves, but have a look at her go. She was in need of the run first up at Sandown, didn't get a lot of luck, and then was able to capitalise second up. I think they've got her right on track now. Third up, Kira Marsh. She's going to be really hard to beat.
So Jimmy heads to Caulfield Saturday week. Just wins the William Reid.
I would think so, Ed, but strange things have happened.
You've gone from declaring him last week
Yeah.
to I feel like I can see the splinters out of your backside here this week, Glenn.
Yeah, wait till race day. I'll be sweating bullets.
I have enjoyed with Jimmy, in all seriousness, the way they've prepared him for this first up run. We've seen him in the public gallops at Caulfield on a Tuesday morning. We've seen his jump outs. Kira Marr's given us a good understanding of what he's doing with Jimmy. Yeah,
well, there's no need to hide him. He's a top line sprinter. Everyone knows what he can do, and his jump out suggests that he might have even improved. So it's a bit scary for his opposition.
Yeah, it certainly is. This time last week we spoke about She's a Hustler. Tex Graham Begg, unfortunately, didn't get his message in time during the show, but the question was, when's she running first up? The answer's Sydney on April 11. On that day is the Queen of the Turf that she does hold a nomination for. So that could be the way she goes, and then on to races like the Q22 over a bit more ground in Queensland, given that she is a staying type who worked her way up to winning a Zipping Classic last spring.
So the Queen of the Turf's 1,500?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's first up.
Yep.
Yeah, so you'd want to be pretty forward.
I'm putting 2 and 2 together,
Okay.
but she's running that day in Sydney.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you'd want to be pretty forward, wouldn't you, to go 1,500 first up in a Queen of the Turf. And she looks forward, like she looks terrific. She often does at the jump outs. There's no secret to her. She always runs well fresh and she always trials well. So I think she's going super. Another one that would appreciate some of that wet weather up in Sydney.
I feel like the form lines behind her have been franked as well, with her beating light infantryman who's looked good this autumn.
Yep.
Could she be that stayer that takes that next step up towards a Caulfield Cup or something like that this year?
Potentially. I mean, she's a Kiwi bred. They tend to get better with age. So they've got that up their sleeve, and obviously in very good hands with Graham Begg, and very good with mares too, particularly.
Yep, him and his father both have a great record with the fillies and mares. All right, so that's the start of the trial show. We're just getting warmed up. There's plenty more for you on the other side of this break. Great to have your company here on the trial show. Let's start off with some fresh faces here. A couple of horses that we haven't seen, but we should be looking out for them when they get to the races. Let's kick things off with Oxley Tycoon, 2-year-old colt. He's had a couple of jump outs by Written Tycoon from the mare You Had Me at Hello. And Glenn, when it comes to the trial show, you complete me.
He's a beautiful mover, this colt. I think they paid a bit for him. He's by Written Tycoon. You can see him out in front there. He's got the nose roll on. He dropped his head. He did everything right. It's a nice big action on him. I suspect he's maybe a 7 furlong type horse. This is an improvement on what he did in his first jump out, where he wasn't asked to do a whole lot, but he was behind a horse called Tagger Bride, who's very speedy. So you would expect Tagger Bride to be winning jump outs, and I thought this horse showed a bit of a kick too when asked to go in this jump out. So I like the way he's going, and we see he's nominated this Saturday.
Yeah, they didn't accept though, so nominated for the showdown, but perhaps they're wanting to go for something just a little bit lower range, so to speak. Even $1 million race on debut is not an easy place to kick off in.
No, maybe they didn't like that jump out, Ed. Maybe they're hoping to see more, I don't know. But he's a nice colt.
Yeah, certainly is. Maybe just looking for a race where he can win first up potentially. Happy Encanto is the next horse we're going to have a look at. As the name would suggest, it kind of gives it away. He's by Per Encanto. He's a 3-year-old with a Matt Laurie stable. He's got a couple of jump outs, Glenn.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a Per Encanto. He's more of a chestnut there, and he won 2 trials in New Zealand on wet tracks, and Matt Laurie's picked him up off a trainer over there in New Zealand, and this is his second jump out. So he had a jump out at Balnarring recently. It was good. He wasn't asked to do a whole lot, but he was asked to do more in this heat. So he looks like a natural racehorse. Another that would improve onto a wet track. So his time's going to come in the next sort of few weeks and months, but I'm sure he's going to break maiden, and that's him beating a horse called Glow Shift, the stablemate there in the Yulon colours.
Often has a number of nice horses, nice younger horses, Matt Laurie. He obviously buys the right yearlings that can progress and develop.
Yeah, well, I think Yulon put a bit of faith in him too. So, I mean, that's always a good sign, isn't it? I mean, they're not going to give it to someone they're not sure about. So he always does a good job with a small team.
Certainly does. There are a couple of fresh faces to keep a look at. Who are the eye catchers for this week's show, Eagle?
Yeah, well, there's plenty. The first of those we're going to look at is a horse called Rosa Aotearoa. I hope I've pronounced that right.
That sounds almost the same, if not better than what I was thinking.
We should have studied that one before we come on. But I think it's a progressive horse with Reese Goodwin. Since Reese has taken over the horses, it's gradually improved every run. Was very good winning at Mornington recently. I think that's probably his track. He's a fast horse and he can kick off the bend. They're the sort of tracks you want to keep him to, maybe a Cranbourne or something like that. And I thought Bargeria went well here. Bargeria with the J there. It's in the nose roll, back on the inside in the red. And Ruska Roma jumped out well too. Is a handy horse for Graham Begg.
Yeah, she looked like she had ability when we saw her through the spring.
She did, yeah. I think there's more to her. And Bargerie, I think, is going to go around this week. It might be one to keep safe.
Are they stronger, these heats now at, say, Pakenham that we're looking at, for instance, since it's become Southside and you've got Cranbourne trainers like Graham Begg who are able to take their horses to Pakenham on a Tuesday, for instance?
Yeah, look, I always find those backstraight jump outs quite hard to gauge. Generally on the course proper is where you want to see them. But you're right, I think they definitely have increased the depth of quality, and Graham Begg just adds another string to that.
Certainly does. Let's go to Nerl next of all from the McAvoy stables. So we're showcasing a few horses from the Melbourne Cup winners barn. Nerl, there's not a lot of him. He's a brazen bow gelding. He's a speedy type.
That was pronounced Canurl, where I went to school. I didn't hang around long enough at school to probably do more study, but Canurl is actually Nerl. So it's in the Godolphin colours, only a neat sort of size horse. He was pretty good at the jump outs prior to the first campaign. Really disappointing in his last start. I'm not sure where he's at the moment, but they were keen to give him a nice gallop here, and he really strode out. So eye-catching, but one thing I will say is the margin was very flattering here. If you look at the overall time, it wasn't that impressive. So don't be fooled into that.
Okay, that's interesting to note. He's not a big type of horse. I think 1,000 to 1,100 seems to be his ideal distance at this stage and age of his career, all of those sort of things. That one race he did win was a two-horse race at Bendigo on Caulfield Cup Day. So strength of the form is still to be determined, and perhaps from an education point of view, as Calvin McAvoy noted when I interviewed him this week, how much is a young horse going to learn from essentially beating one other horse in a race? Yeah,
so maybe, I mean, you say 1,100, I'd even maybe look at those is it the 950s we're doing at Cranbourne?
Yep,
Something like that might be Nerl's home.
You must have been away from school that day. But anyway,
Yes.
You've retained a lot of other things, Eagle. King Zephyr, now he featured on the show last week as well. I wonder, you look at his starting price profile, punters seem to flock to him. So even though he's not a regular winner, he's rarely out of the money. Has he just been overhyped, this horse, and he hasn't necessarily delivered up to punters' expectations, and those expectations might be that bit too high, if you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily agree with it. I think maybe where that SP profile come from is because the horse used to be with Chris Highland. And I think when Graham took it over, the horse obviously improved. I mean, Chris works for Graham, so, you know, Graham's just put the polish on this horse. And look, I think his jump outs have been super. I love the way he hit the line here behind two really classy horses in Charm Stone, who won the heat. Hedge second. Hedge has got a good base of fitness, clearly. It's been up a long time, but the King was terrific at Caulfield recently, and I thought he was just as good there at Cranbourne, so I love the way he's going.
Yeah, second jump out back, flying home there. He's won 6 from 10. Charmstone, when I last spoke to Mick Price, the plan was to go towards the William Reid at Caulfield first up Saturday week, so potential rival for Jimmysstar there.
Yeah, okay. He's in a bit of trouble, Charmstone.
Yeah.
He's going there.
You're 100% with Jimmysstar, there's no doubt about that. Celtics, last horse to have a look at as part of this section of the show. Lyrical Gangster also featuring in this replay. Celtics, a 3-year-old in the Rosemont Silks. Still a maiden from 3 starts thus far, Eagle.
Yeah, visually very impressive, Celtics. He's an interesting horse. Clearly he's got working through a few issues. He's by I'm Invincible. They can be a bit hot, a bit hard to handle. And this guy, you can see him sort of getting pulling, wanting to get rolling early. The jock's sort of holding him up as long as he could, and then he let him go down the outside and he ripped home. It was a terrific jump out. I think he's a horse with a fair bit of ability if he can get it all right on race day, Ed. So I wouldn't envisage he'd be a maiden for too much longer after this sort of work.
Is he a better big track horse? Because it just looked like it took him a little while to really go through his gears, but once he did, he let down nicely.
Yeah, maybe like a big track like Pakenham or something would suit him.
Pakenham or a Sale, I'm thinking. Bendigo.
Or, coming out of a shoot would probably suit him.
We are available for anyone's racing managers if you're after us here. Otherwise, we'll stick to our day jobs and we'll come back for the next segment of the trial show here. We've tasted some of the best jump out action from right across Victoria over the last week or so. Now we're going to see what the leftovers are. We're going to the fridge. What are we keeping there for another day, Glen Ingram?
Well, I think a few horses we can snack on later, Ed. One of them is Skipper's Canyon, who finished up in the Pakenham Cup last campaign. Just didn't work out for him. I think the stablemate ended up winning at big odds for Phillip Stokes. And maybe didn't get the 2-5. I don't know. We'll find out more about him this campaign. But I'll tell you a horse that is flying at the moment for Rhys Goodwin, and that is Magnado, who started his career, I think he was at the Picnics, and he's found his way into Rhys's care, and he was able to win last start. I think he's won a couple of races with Rhys, and he's going really well. Iron Velvet ran on into second there in the lime colours, and have a look at the skipper out the back there running on hard. Yeah, this is a lovely jump out from Skipper's Canyon. He finished off nicely.
It was the last 100 that was particularly eye-catching from him. You look at his profile, and he's won recently over 1,700 metres, but he's got the profile of a progressive stayer, and he's got the way of galloping and the way of jumping out like a stayer. So even though maybe at that point, 25, either at that stage of his career or that stage of his preparation mightn't have been ideal, he should get that in time, that sort of distance.
Yeah, he should. Look, he's got a negative racing style, so that's going to be against him too, but he's a nice enough horse.
This time last year, we were quite taken with Splashback. She's a horse from the Graham Begg stable that in 2025 really worked her way through the grades quite quickly and showed above average ability throughout the winter before winning a Group 2 level in the spring. She's had a decent break. This is her first jump out back for 2026.
Yeah, she has a wicked turn of foot. She hasn't been able to put blocks of racing together, so it makes me think maybe she's not all that sound, but she was pretty good last campaign. She was able to get a few runs in there under Graham Begg, and she's got a good sprint, so I think the best time maybe is to get her fresh. So this is a nice jump out. I'm sure she'll have another. Limbs Tide is out the front there, or Tade. It's a 1,000-metre horse. It's pretty sharp. It could probably find another race somewhere, maybe out in the country.
A Splashback, 14 to 1,600 metre type of mare?
Yep, speed on, just sit off them and go whack.
OK, let's get into the best from the show, the summaries here. Who are you giving your seal of approval to, Glen Ingram? Yeah,
I thought Prevail was clearly one of the better jump outs of the week there with the Kavanagh boys, and it's going to go round at Cranbourne. Looks very fit from what we've seen at the jump outs. It's had the 3 now and looks ready to go. Jimmysstar, well, what more can you say? He's flying this campaign. He had a nice little tick over there at Cranbourne. King Zephyr returned in good form at the jump outs. He's had 2 now. Should see him at the races shortly. And Milady Rowe's got a low rating. I think it's a horse we can back first up with Team McAvoy.
Now, last week on the show, you had your bold statement. I brought it up again this week and you were umming and ahhing about it. Back yourself, Eagle. Give us the bold statement without hesitation.
OK, I think if Inamorata goes to a benchmark race next start, it's going to be very hard to beat. Should be winning. Inamorata.
Excellent. That's what we want to hear. Eagle, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
We'll see you next week right here on The Trial Show. Goodbye for now, though.